Hi friends, it's Terry Gaines. In this video, I'm going to give you all the details to create this beautiful fun fold card that opens up to reveal an inside message along with a beautiful scenic view that I'm calling a bay window view fun fold card. This is absolutely beautiful designer series paper I'm working with. It is part of Stampin' Up's new online exclusives that are available on November 7th. I have a flyer for all the new product that was available for the online exclusives. You can download this flyer from my blog. If you found me via YouTube, there'll be a direct link in the text portion of the video to my blog to get my information and the PDF downloads. This paper is absolutely beautiful. There are 12 different scenic views. The paper is 6 by 6 in size. It coordinates with many of Stampin' Up's exclusive colors. In the packet, you receive 4 each of these double-sided prints. On the back side of the print is a background print that is very versatile. And this is just absolutely beautiful paper. I have created several of these fun fold cards using almost all of the papers. I did not create cards with 2 of the designs, but they could definitely be used. So when I'm done sharing how to create this card, I'm going to show you those additional samples. This paper, as I mentioned, is so beautiful, and some of the different prints coordinate with each other, and they are so pretty. As I mentioned, it coordinates with many of Stampin' Up's exclusive colors on the back side. It lists 17 different colors, and you can also include some other colors. I have samples made with Mossy Meadow, which is not one of the listings, but the beauty of Stampin' Up's product, all their exclusive colors come in ink pads, cardstocks, and blends, and different accessories. And it is beautiful designer series paper to work with. The sentiments I'm using for my samples is a So Sincere sentiment, which is in the September through December mini catalog, Season of Chic, and Go-To Greetings in the annual catalog. I've also used the Countryside Corner dies for some of my decorative elements, but you could use different label type dies. I also have samples showing the circle, some circle punches. So I'm going to be creating a design with this print, and I'm going to use 2 of the 6 by 6 prints. I have chosen the Orchid Oasis for my coordinating color, and you can pick so many different colors, and I'm going to use this. So I'm going to start out by talking about the card base. I've cut the card base to size. It is 11 by 5.5. And now I'm going to score this. I'm going to bring in my Simply Scoring tool to score the card base. And I have the measurements here. I also have a PDF you can download from my blog that will give you all of these measurements. It will include photos of all the samples I also have. So we have 1 inch, 2 inch, 5 1/4, and 8 1/2. Now, the length of the cardstock, as I mentioned, or card base is 11. That means it's against the grain. When you fold the card base the other direction, it's with the grain. So what I'm going to do is flip this over and rescore this at the very same locations on the other side. What that's going to do is burnish both sides, and when I fold these, they're not going to crack. Because it's against the grain, it may crack the cardstock as you go to fold the other side. So I like to burnish both sides when I'm working with my card base in this format. Now for these score lines, the first panel at number 1, or 1 inch, I'm going to fold in. Now I actually am going to fold it this way. I'm going to share with you why I folded it this way. The card base seems to have a front and a back. To me, they're identical in color, but it's how the corner feels. It feels like it was cut this way, so I figured this is the top, so that's why I rotated it. I'm going to take my bone folder and crease that. Then I'm going to put adhesive on the back of this panel and adhere it to this panel. So I've adhered this 1 inch panel to this 1 inch panel here, and it's scored right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that one backwards. I'm going to fold that back to kind of be a mountain fold. Then I'm going to go and skip this one and go to this fold, and I'm going to fold this one down. I'm going to take my bone folder and crease that. Now, instead of just folding at this score line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to meet up this fold line to the edge of the cardstock right at that seam right here. So I can bring those two pieces together, hold that, and then force my fold or score to be right here. And the reason I do that is that avoids any gap in that spacing there. So now we have our card base in the right format. We're going to decorate it. Now I have lots of measurements here, and I just want to explain what that all entails. So I have decorative inside layer number 1. That's this first layer. This is layer number 2, and this is layer number 3. The designer series paper that I'm cutting is what I'm referring to the numbered part. The matte is if you want a color behind it. So I've got the mattes already cut. So those would be, these two are the same size, and we have this one to be slightly narrower. So those are already cut. Now I'm going to show you how I cut my designer series paper. Now this paper, I don't know if I've shared this already, but when you put these together, it kind of looks like the scene continues here. So what I'm going to do is have this scene, this section, be the first layer, this section be the middle one, and this section be the end one. So what I'm going to do is cut this one first. So I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and it's 3 inches wide. So I'm going to turn it upside down because I'm cutting this section, and cut it at 3 inches. Okay. Now it is 5 1/4 in height. So what you need to decide is, do you want to take the 3/4 inch off the top or the bottom, or a little bit on both ends? I'm going to take the 3/4 inch off the bottom on both of these pieces. I'm going to set that one aside. And let's see, that would be 5 1/4. So I'm going to move this to the scale over here and cut that. So now we have, this one is cut to size. Now I mentioned this one's going to be my next one, and this is going to be the end. I'm going to cut the 3/4 off first. So I'm going to cut this at 5 1/4. And these are extra pieces. I'm going to set those aside. And now this next section is 3 inches, which is the same as the first one. So I'm going to, whoops, let's see, make sure I cut it at the right spot. Cut that. Now the next one is 2 1/4. I'm going to bring my sample back in and show you something. So right here is about a 1/4 inch space here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that 1/4 inch out of my designer series paper. This is not a requirement, it's just a personal decision. I'm going to go and cut this 1/4 inch. I turned it upside down so I could look at this ruler. I cut that 1/4 inch off. I'm going to rotate it back so I'm looking at it the right view. Mark this at 2 1/4, and then cut that to size. So the reason I did that was because when this is together, that section is actually missing instead of stretching the scene, and it's a personal decision. You definitely don't have to do that. So now I have those pieces cut. So to save some time, I have adhered these already. So that's the middle one, that's this, and this was this one. So you would adhere these two. So I just did saved some video time and got those adhered already. So these are all extra, and I can put another card together later. Now I do want to talk about the outside layer. In the sample I have here, this is an optional. You can have this more decorative. I'm going to go ahead and have this as an outside layer on this card as well. And that size is 3 inches, which is already at 3 inches. Now, just to let you know, this is what I cut off of this section. So I cut it off of here, or maybe on this side. So for this particular card, you need 2 of the 6x6. So back to this, it's optional, but I'm going to do it. It's 3 inches by 5 1/4. So I actually could have cut this 5 1/4 inch first, but if it all's fine. I'm starting to add complication to it. My videos are unedited. They sometimes contain bloopers, and if I was in person, we would have the same conversations and issues. So, all right, so now we have this part. I want to talk about this decorative panel. That's for the panel on the outside. I'm going to be showing you some other cards that have a bigger panel here. I'm kind of indicating that the max size of that panel you attach here should be 3 inches by 4 1/2. And then the sentiment layer is this layer right here. It can be a label cut like this is, or it can actually be a layer of cardstock. And some of my samples are going to show you that. So this will all make sense when you see all the rest of the samples. So let's go back to working with our card. This is for the front. So what I like to do is I like to attach the, whoops, I just dropped this. Let me go ahead and grab that layer. I like to attach this layer first. So I'm going to put my adhesive on the back. I'm using the Stampin' Up seal. You can use your favorite adhesive. And I'm going to look at these 3 edges, the top, bottom, and the right side, to get my equal spacing, and then that should fall into place. Then I'm going to attach this one, looking for equal spacing on this top and this top, and placing it between the score lines. So put your adhesive on here, and I like to rotate it. My view I have is better if I rotate it this direction, and that's the best for all of us, is to rotate it to what's the best view for you to get this. And now, as I mentioned, I'm looking for that equal spacing on those edges. This is the 3rd one. Isn't this paper absolutely beautiful? So I'm going to put my adhesive on this one, and this one gets adhered just like that. So look at how beautiful that just continues with that design. Now I'm going to fold this down like here. This is where the sentiment layer goes. Now this is where your inside sentiment would be, but you can also sign the card right here. So I'm going to put regular adhesive and put that right here. Equal spacing top and bottom, equal spacing the 2 sides, and adhere that. Then I'm going to fold this like this. Now I'm going to adhere this layer, and this is the decorative outside layer. I am not going to add a matte or a black cardstock to this one. I'm just going to put my adhesive on here and adhere this. I'm going to look for equal spacing on all 4 sides. So I'm going to watch opposite corners, and hopefully with the view, there we go. I have that attached. Now this kind of wants to open, so this decorative panel is kind of a closure. It kind of holds the card closed, but because we have that score line going backwards, it allows us to open it. Now, because of the thickness of this, we're going to have to put dimensionals right here, and we're going to put 2 stacks of dimensionals. So what I like to do is determine, where do I want this, up here or down here? I'm going to put this right here. So what I do is I move it over to the edge, and this is just a guide so I know where to place my dimensionals. And I'm going to do this left-handed. I'm going to see if I can do this left-handed. I'm going to turn it this way so I can do it right-handed. How's that? Turning it upside down just so it's easier for me to attach these. And then I'm going to place them where they are only on this 1-inch panel, and this still opens. So it's fairly close, but it still opens. And I'm going to stack them double high. I'm going to take the backings off, and then I'm going to attach another one on top of that. We need 2 high because of the thickness of all those layers. Now I can take this off. Oops. And then I can take this sentiment and I can move it over as far as I want. I just want to attach it a little bit, or basically we're hiding the dimensionals. And I want to make sure I have that level. So as I mentioned, that kind of acts as a closure, but it also is a decorative outside sentiment. Now you open up your card, you have your inside sentiment, and then you have your decorative view. And this card will stand and display so beautifully, showing off all of that beautiful artwork. As promised, I have more samples to share with you. So I've shared these two are actually with the very same designer series paper. You can see how they change, whether you're using what color designer series paper you're using. And now let me bring in this one. This is also using the Orchid designer series paper, and I've used these two prints, and I just did the meeting up right here. So this one continues, and this is where I use circles, and this is the So Sincere stamp set. And this is where I mentioned the sentiment layer can be max size is 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then you close this one and you have the circles instead of the countryside dies. Here's another one. This is using this designer series paper, and this meets up so beautifully to continue the design in that fashion. So I've used these two sections here and then another sheet right here. Use the happy birthday again, use the designer series paper on the outside. Absolutely love this designer series paper, and this fun fold is so beautiful with it. Let me bring my whole stack in so you can see I got lots to share. Now I don't have any of this designer series paper left to show you how I met those up, but this is one print, and then this side here continued over here, and I used Thinking of You, and here we have paper on the front like that. This is the very same designer series paper for just these two panels. Because this element is bigger, I did not put designer series paper behind here. There, it's going to sit like here. But this front section is from this designer series paper. So you can mix and match these up. They work really beautifully together. So this one would be viewing just those two scenic panels, and you would have that card. Now I've got this Night of Navy and two different prints, and again, only two panels. So I'm using this print for those two panels. Because this is larger, I decided not to put paper back there, and I cut this element out of this paper. So it's two different papers, but the coloring and the sky are so perfect together. So they worked out really, really well together. And this one closes up like this. So now I have this one. This is where I brought Mossy Meadow in. This is the same designer series paper, and look how pretty that is. You can just meet that up and continue your design. So I have three panels here. I have these two are with that in this section or here. And then I have taken this out of the same designer series paper, and here close that up. So you can have if your banners or your elements bigger here, you can keep the designer series paper off. If it's smaller, you can add it. This card is also with Mossy Meadow, and it's using these two prints that meet up really nicely to work well together. And so I have this, and I use that same print for the outside, and that closes up. Here's another one with Mossy Meadow. Now these are two different prints. I used just this print on the two panels, and I used this print for the outside. And again, because this panel was larger, I chose not to put designer series paper. And you can close this one up and have a beautiful front of the card. And the last one is with Crushed Curry and this paper. And this paper meets up really, really nice also. So I have those first two or end two panels here with that print, and then this one repeats over here, and then I use the other section for the front. So this paper is such a fun, beautiful paper to work with this fun fold. As I mentioned, I have a PDF you can download on my blog that's going to give you measurements and the photos of this to help you see what I did so you could duplicate. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you don't have a demonstrator you're working with, I would love to have you connect with me. And as I mentioned, let me know if you have any questions. Take care and happy creating.